Our childhood memories are sprinkled with heavenly trips down a crystal clear river. They are haunted by the sound of dynamite and a childhood home lost deep beneath the water.
You don't swim down, you just fall. It takes approximately 5 minutes, sinking at a gradual pace. Like a parachutist, you would just fall through the water column.
In over 300 feet of water sits a landscape that was once a green valley.
We swam right into a tree, with all the limbs just like fingers going out into the water. That kind of thing gives me a little bit of a pause. This is starting to touch home.
130 feet down, a quiet graveyard haunts the deep.
The cemetery was just a little clearing on the top of a hill surrounded by trees. You can see everything. It's twilight, after sunset, which kind of adds to that mystique.
It is said that some of the deceased still lay beneath their headstones.
This is their final resting place, and it still is today.
Debbie Fletcher dives in these waters where she once ran through the pastures. It is the final leg of a long, nostalgic journey that had her searching the deep for the home where she once lived. Tell me about your childhood at Lake Jocassee.
Well, it was Jocassee Valley when I was a child. When we crossed that steel bridge into the valley, we were just in another world. Dirt road, beautiful river ran through the whole valley, completely surrounded by mountains, almost totally undeveloped. It was such cold water, and I remember my uncle telling me, if you're going to tiptoe into that water, you're never going to get in it, so you just have to take a run and jump and get in it. It's magical.
Debbie's family owned the Attakulla Lodge, a hotel in the heart of the valley.
My grandmother actually ran it. 3 full meals a day and, your bed and just lots of recreation there.
But things began to change in the late 60s. The fairy tale had to give in to progress. Duke Power was building a dam to generate electricity, and a lake would fill the valley.
There had been logging trucks coming in and out of the valley for years, cutting down timber. It just looked sad, just, it was hard. I remember sitting in the river, having a picnic in the middle of the river and hearing the dynamite blasting.
As Duke Power raised other homes and buildings in the valley, the lodge was spared, thanks to Debbie's father and a bitter struggle against the power company.
He got a restraining order to keep the power company off his land. Even though it was going to go under a lake, he had a restraining order that was granted, and they were no longer able to come on that property. The lake still proceeded. The lake covered the hotel, but the hotel is the one structure that was never demolished.
My uncle was a pilot, and he had flown over the lake as it was filling, and they saw like hardwood floor material or something hung up in the trees, so they made the assumption that the lodge had lifted off its foundation, flipped over, and it hung up in the trees.
The thought of seeing the lake had been too painful for Debbie. It would take years for her to return.
I remember the first time I jumped into the lake. I thought I was really expecting the water to be this ice-cold water that the river was, and it wasn't. It was really warm, and that was kind of an upsetting time for me. I wanted to get out really quick.
As the years passed and the lost world of Jocassee Valley faded into history, for Debbie Fletcher, the memories only became fonder.
The hardest part for me is that I can't take my children there.
Right.
It's one thing to lose your house, but to lose a part of your heart it's really still hard.
But the final chapter of Attakulla Lodge was not yet written, thanks to a dive instructor with a passion for history and man-made lakes. And Jocassee is the holy grail of man-made lakes.
Jocassee is deeper than any of the lakes in the southeast. It's 365 foot deep to the old riverbed.
When Bill Ruth heard a rumor that an old lodge may still be standing somewhere deep beneath the water, he could not resist, and his research led him to Debbie Fletcher.
Bill called me that one night and said, I want to look for it. I said, well, I don't think it's there anymore. He said, you know, the valley didn't just flood like this massive gush of water all of a sudden. It was a very slow backing up. It took 2 years for the lake to fill up a full pond. He felt like there would be an excellent possibility that it was still there.
But finding the lodge was going to be more difficult than a casual swim.
It was very deep, and it's pitch black, of course.
This is not recreational diving, and it is on the far edge of technical diving.
Yeah.
Okay, at 300-foot depths, there are not a lot of people that do that dive, even if they have the same credentials as I do. Yeah. It's just not something that a lot of people want to do.
With the help of an old land survey, Bill was able to find GPS coordinates for the property. And after months waiting for perfect conditions, he set out on a boat in the middle of the night.
And we went out with a camera and suspended it from the surface to a TV monitor at 2 o'clock in the morning when there was no glare on the monitor, no boat traffic, no wind. So I'm out there with a camera suspended 300 feet below and just basically moving my boat slowly, trying to find the hotel.
In pitch black for 2.5 hours, Bill squinted into his monitor at the haunting lake bed until out of the darkness, he saw something that hadn't been looked upon for 37 years. The Attakulla Lodge. Still standing in defiance of progress, a determined reminder of the lost fairy tale that once played out around her, and for Debbie, a bridge to her lost childhood.
I just feel like I'm a very blessed woman. God gave me a desire of my heart. It was like reconnecting me to my home. My childhood is frozen in a time capsule down there.
Bill has been down with other technical divers several times. They tied a line to the structure that runs up to a buoy several feet below the surface of the water so that the location of the lodge remains a closely guarded secret. He shoots video of the lodge, and at Debbie's request brought her a part of the old homestead to keep. Debbie was inspired to learn to dive, and although she doesn't feel comfortable going to 300 feet, she has taken to diving shallower depths in the lake, at times to meet Bill as he returns from Attakulla.
For me, it's just a way of getting as close to that place as I can. It's just like saying they didn't get it all. You know, it's not all gone, it's still there. They tell me that unless there's some catastrophe, that the house should be there for a long, long time to come.
And that is enough for Debbie Fletcher. A 300-foot nylon line is all that stands between her and the wonderland she once knew.
I don't know what it was about Jocassee that just got into our souls, but it did.